Perfect, guys. Perfect, guys. Thank you so much for joining my session. It's a big pleasure to be here, finally on the stage at the GameCamp, and I hope you are going to enjoy my talk today. Also, I see a tons of you over here, so I also really hope you enjoyed your lunch break, because this presentation should be very informative, not just for the UA leaders, but it will cover also multiple sections from creative and ASO space. But of course, this presentation is not about me, but let's just do a very quick and briefly introduction. Uh, I have been in the gaming industry for more than 6 years, had the chance to work in various positions, mainly from the marketing field, and currently I am the senior growth manager at SuperScale. So that's it, as I promised, very quick. And about our company, SuperScale is fully integrated all-in-one solution with all required technology and expertise that helps mobile games and applications reach their maximum potential. And basically, our growth loop is quite simple. We analyze, optimize, and scale games. And as I mentioned, we combine our expertise and technology. It always starts with analyzing and understanding the game's business potential. Then, thanks to our game designers, we are improving the player's LTV through, special offers, preparing summer, winter, Halloween events, etc. It's very crucial and important part because only after that we are ready to move to scale part and actually scale the game and the whole business to the maximum potential. But now for today's agenda, let's start with a very simple question: while even scale can? Thus, the answer is very simple. Of course, and obviously, to make more money from organic and paid user acquisition. If you have been in this kind of gaming industry, you know that iOS players tends to have better retention and also payment behavior. So yeah, Scan changed a lot of things for marketers, but those kind of players are still there. So if you are just worried, basically if you cut your budgets on iOS, it doesn't make sense. Like, you can still grow your Android platform and Android game, but it will be stuck on iOS. So it's very simple. Because right now we have multiple solutions that we will cover, which we will cover in the next presentation. But there are some key points that you need to keep in mind before you even start thinking about scaling your scan. Right? First one, make sure you understand your game monetization very, very well. Reason behind that is very simple. Let's put a quick example. Let's say you have a game that generates the revenue mainly from ads, and you want to push new ad channel, for example, Wangle. And I can already tell you that you will not be successful, because Wangle is very great network with large inventory, very quality one, but Wango optimizes strictly towards in-app revenue, right? And in-app events. So this is exactly why, before you even start thinking about scaling, adding multiple networks, make sure you know how your game monetizes in order to better pick your right way channel for your game. Then we got the retention. And of course, like, we are not in a soft launch phase anymore. So we are in a stage when it comes to the scaling that you should already know all your KPIs for your key markets, such as United States, Tier 1, Tier 2, APEC, etc. So then, once again, you can better know and have better overview what you can actually expect once you start launching new campaigns and scaling scan. Then it's very crucial, actually, to do proper data health checks and prepare customized dashboards, especially for the iOS campaigns. And with that goes the ability to create prediction models, if you are able to do that. And the next level is that you will be able to see also break-even points per each media source where you are spending money. And for sure, this can be also applied for the Android platform. But yeah, this is mainly for the scan overview right now. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we all want to make more money from scan. even though we have these kind of difficulties with trafficking and everything behind that. But this kind of overall goal to make more money would not be possible to do without paying enough attention to the App Store optimization and creative testing as well. So let's start with a very simple and recent case study from our kitchen. I can't mention, unfortunately, the game's name title, but I can share with you that we are in the gaming slash simulation category. And what we can see over here is that for our case, iOS platform is outperforming Android One quite heavily, not only with the CPI benchmarks, where we can see that we are buying currently iOS players in tier 1 market for approximately $1 compared to the Android where we are paying for, right? But then when we check this kind of table over here, we can see that the iOS for this game has definitely better growth potential on monthly basis. For your information, this table represents a comparison of current month compared to the previous one. And we are still spending on both platforms, just to put it out there. And we can see, right, on iOS, on average, plus 60% increase in total net revenue compared to the previous month. On Android, only 20. But good thing is that it's still increasing, right? It's not only 20, but it's quite uncomparable to the iOS. And yeah, this is actually the very simple view. Let's say you don't have any kind of advanced dashboards where you can see and track everything with different kind of breakdown levels. So this is actually very simple to build based on your store data, store revenue, right? And you can actually track your UA impact on the game. This is the same game as I was showing the table before, and we can easily see the situation before user acquisition and then the situation after we started running marketing campaigns. So on the left side, we can see it was quite steady, very flat, a couple of spikes during weekends because in weekends we got better conversion to the payers. But then once we start running user acquisition in US, Canada, and APEC for this game, we can actually see that the average for daily net revenue increased by 60%. So once again, if you don't have any kind of advanced dashboards, make sure you can prepare at least these kind of graphs, and you can divide them per each country as well. But let's talk also about the ISO, because as I mentioned, ISO takes a huge part in the whole game's success and the full growth. So this is once again, we are showing the same kind of timeline. And I can honestly tell you that together with our guys from the data science team, we came up with a key factor number for this game title and for those two countries, US and Canada. And we came up with number for key factor of 1.3. And what does it mean? So basically, long story short, it means that for each 3 players we acquire through user acquisition, we are getting 1 for free, thanks to the better positioning we can see over here. Before the user acquisition on US market, we were holding our ranks in our main game category between 150 up to 200s during marketing campaigns, very steady. We are not even scaling so much, and it's still quite steady. It's not dropping. We are in top 100 for US, and for Canada, you can see it on the right side. In Canada, we are in top 25, and as you can see, I just put very simple countries over here, and when you run campaigns in 30 countries, you should be able to do this kind of analysis on your own every single time, so you can actually understand how your game behave, not just from the campaign level, but also in the App Store. And talking about the ASO, these are actually pretty recent. These are actually pretty recent examples. This is different game, and what I want to show over here are basically tell you that it's a quite sometimes it's quite a hard road to find the winning creatives, right? Especially if you have a game which is, for example, 10 years old, right, on the store. So we went through multiple A/B tests for icons, screenshots, etc. But you still need to keep improving, and that's why, for our case, you can see some examples of icons where we tested pixelated art style versus more realistic one, and also some static and very simple ones. And the results are uh, quite good for us because we were struggling with this game. I'm not gonna lie. That's also the reason why we was able to show so many simple and pixelated art styles, because we are rotating in that certain direction for quite a while. But our creative guys did a great job. They came up with new hypotheses. Right now, we are trying to test every single week new, new assets with different angles. We are moving basically train placement, different kind of transitions. So this is basically the goal. Once you find a new winning variation, no matter if it's icon, screenshot, or feature graphic, then you need to apply the rest assets as well, so they can combine everything together. So this is exactly our case. We found this kind of icon, then we immediately needed to switch and change screenshots and feature graphics as well. So we did run a very simple A/B test. Once again, on the left side, unsuccessful pixelated style. On the right side, more realistic one, same as the icon. And yeah, the experiment just proved our hypothesis, and we went this direction. And right now we are optimizing and basically testing the screenshots in the same way. So sometimes once you find a new variation, it can bring more opportunities to the future, because from just one successful experiment you can actually change the whole store listing, if that makes sense. All right, so now maybe you are asking, cool, Daniel, those were kind of interesting and informative case studies, right? But what exactly is behind it? So let me show you how you should ideally approach it. And don't worry, I am not sure if guys at the very back can see this, but it's a big table, but it does make sense. And main takeaway from here, let's start with the main takeaway. If you really want to scale your game for iOS in 2022, I would recommend to combine all three growth areas, activities together, right? So we are talking about UA, ISO, and creatives. Reason is quite simple, because I also remember when the UA teams, ISO teams, and creative teams were doing and preparing strategies on their own. And this is a big problem, because on large scale, it turned into huge problems. So that's why it's quite crucial to prepare this kind of project timeline, scaling timeline per each project, so everything can be aligned. And whether you are marketing leader, ASO leader, or creative leader, once you look at this kind of timeline, you exactly see what's expected from you to deliver in certain month. So then you can better plan together with your team, do needed researches, preparing briefs, analysis, and so on. And believe or not, this is gonna save a lot of time and also frustration to the future if you want to scale in numerous ad channels at the same time. Oh yeah, and one more thing, I would like to tell you that at SuperScale we found our sweet spot with this kind of planning to be at maximum 3 months. Everything longer than that doesn't make any sense and can be actually accurate, right? Because a lot of things can change in the future. So I would recommend to start with planning up to 3 months. Let's better write them down, prepare more tasks so they are more precisely prepared, and it will help you scale more efficiently. It doesn't actually make sense to prepare scaling plan for, let's say, 1 year. All right, and now we got the growth stages. I would like to be more specific over here, and let's start with the ASO. So for keyword research, very simple, but important at the same time. Please test I would recommend every 2 months, especially on the iOS platform, and per each geo if you got localized store listings, right? As you might know, iOS is quite not easy, but a very great way, very great platform where you can play around and boost your keywords thanks to the 100 character limit you have available inside iTunes. So you can just imagine, right? Once you got 10 localized store listings, you have 10 times 100 keyword characters available, and it can have quite a huge impact on the organic traffic, right? Then we got short and long descriptions. And as you can see, there's quite a huge difference between these two. For long descriptions, I would recommend testing them and preparing actually the new ones every single month. And reason is quite simple, because let's say you follow this kind of strategy and approach, in 6 months you will have free, complete and whole keyword researches and analysis, and basically those keywords can be used in a better and faster way than right when you will be preparing long description. Never do that in the opposite side, because you will end up just preparing a text, and at the same time, at the very time, you will still need to find new keywords that actually make sense for your game. And now to my favorites: promo video, icons, screenshots, feature graphics. These are the most important one, at least for me. They are fun. You can play with different kind of approaches, and they are pretty individual as well. So please make sure that you test them as much as you can. If you don't have enough organic traffic in multiple tier 1 countries, let's say, it's also a good idea to start with the US market first and then localize later. And as I said, it's pretty individual. No matter if you have, let's say, organic traffic for one game and you are able to run experiments on weekly basis, then for sure do that. Just make sure you can prepare new hypotheses every single week, then separate it with assets and continue doing that. So if your game doesn't have so much organic traffic and you can run A/B test once per month, it's still no problem at all. Just continue doing that. That once you increase the conversion, you can end up having multiple multiple experiments every single month, and that's exactly what you want to achieve and what should be your goal. To test during the whole year, because everything is changing so fast, and also stores are updating their listings and behavior at the same time, so you need to make sure you can test as much as you can. For the creatives, let's start with the video motivators. I like to test with our team new motivators every single week. Once we get the resources right for those videos, our guys need to prepare creative briefs, and they need to start producing them. So that's exactly why we have such timeline he was able to see. With that, we can basically set deadlines for everything and are ready to test new creatives every single week without any problem. And we always test them in the separate campaigns. We never combine them with the main campaign, ROAS campaign. Always try to test those creatives in the separate campaign, allocate budget for that, and you need to start with the mindset those campaigns are not going to be profitable. That's actually true. That's not the final destination of those campaigns. You want to end up having and finding at least one, ideally, right, one new creative every single week. So then you can move it to the main campaigns that are actually generating money and where you are spending the most money. Then we got playable ads, and these are actually very crucial, especially for the scaling part, as I mentioned. Because you don't want to stick just to one ad channel, for example, Facebook, Google, right? When it comes to the scaling, you want to be visible as much as you can across multiple ad channels and basically trade different kind of inventory. And playable ads are very crucial over there. I can actually imagine that we will be able to scale any kind of game to millions of monthly spend without having playable ads, especially for ad channels. So if you are in a situation that you are considering that you would like to start with any kind of ad channel that supports playable ads, maybe stop right now, take your time. Let's do a break for 2 months, but make sure you can have at least 2 or 3 playable ads ready, so you can support those kind of placements, because you can combine normal videos, and then you will have full playable ads, then you can have videos plus playable ads. So the options are there, and yeah, those networks perform quite very well with playable ads. So don't go all in on the networks when you don't have playable ads. That's the main takeaway over here. And for the static end cards, like this is the very not funny one, but very simple one, because let's say you found 10 new motivators that works for you very well. That's the best case scenario. So what you want to do then is to iterate more and more, not just the video itself, but also the static end card. It can improve your CTR quite massively. You can test out multiple call to action buttons at the very end. You can play around with the wall design, but you can actually imagine how it can help you increase your overall conversion from just trying preparing new static end cards, and they are very simply to do. And the last part, it's called expansion. If you have the opportunity, then build prediction models, especially for the US. I wouldn't be so confident in spending if we wouldn't have any kind of prediction models, right? So you need to know your audience, ideally at an early stage. You to scan, scan issues, let's say. But more importantly, don't just create predictions based on the platform, right? For example, iOS and Android, but make sure you can do those kind of breakdowns, as I mentioned earlier, where you will be able to see predictions for UIC, iPlovin, etc. Right? Then I recommend to start always with the social channels first. As I mentioned, you can have much more budget control per each campaign. You can run multiple creative tests at very good costs, let's say, compared to the channels, because they are quite aggressive, right? You can end up spending up to 10 times more than you would like to, and you don't want to do that with creative tests, right? So socials are a very great way to start, not just testing, but your scaling. But yeah, you need to still go through enough learnings. You need to find a lot of creatives. And once you are able to do that, then move SAP to ad networks. And I personally like to test at least 5 of them every single year per each game that we are scaling. And obviously, the ones that are not performing well, I will just exclude them, and I will basically replace them with the ones that are waiting on the line. So we never stick just to one or two sources of traffic, right? We still try to diversify as much as we can and just allocate budget where it does make sense. So now, what should be the ideal evaluation, right? Let's be more concrete and specific. This is actually our real snapshot from those customized dashboards I was talking about earlier. And it's quite straightforward. You can have customized dashboards. You can have different kind of, metrics over here. I like to keep it simple. This view is quite straightforward, mainly for UA managers, right? On the left side, we can see media source, then we can see spend, then how many players we acquired with this certain media source, what's our ROAS D1, and then D7, D28. But goal is to get a breakdown as per each media source, and mainly we need to be 100% sure we have and we get from scan network that ROAS D1, because as I hope all of you know already, everything after D2 plus is predicted. So yeah, it's sure that the games that are monetizing very, very early can have an advantage. You don't need to have any kind of special and advanced dashboards, right? You can still optimize your campaigns and understand if your campaign will be profitable based on your ROAS D1, but I would not recommend that. I want to see as much as we can. For this game, we are aiming to be profitable in D30. So this kind of view can help not just me, but also rest of the team, optimize campaigns and allocate budgets based on performance. And actually, there is a very great example. If you check the UIC, it actually has the highest real ROAS D1 compared to the rest sources over here. But then RAS-D28 is the lowest based on, I don't know, this kind of game where we have been struggling with retention in USC. So that's exactly the reason why we are not spending on USC that much, right, compared to uploading, for example, over here. So yeah, it's very important to have these kind of prediction models, and you can have breakdowns not just per media source but also per campaign. But unfortunately, for creatives, that's not possible. So we will see if we will get there in some time in the future, but this is what's possible, at least for now. So I know it was a lot of information in a short period of time. So let me sum it up, our final conclusions. And I would like to split it up actually to two parts. On the left side, we can see the correct techniques, and on the right side, incorrect ones. So let's start with the correct ones. Please plan your strategy for at least 3 months in advance and make sure you are getting real scan data. So that means your MMP scan setup is correct, right? There is no point to start spending heavily if you don't have this kind of basics done, right? So make sure you can double check that all the time, especially when you are planning adding new ad network. You need to went through those kind of settings once again, right, and double check if everything does make sense. Then, if you have the opportunity and actually possibility, build prediction models. If not, you can message us. We are here to help in that area as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, always have clear goals and KPIs for our main markets. I can share that we have up to 20 different kind of KPIs based on the markets. For sure, there are more countries in the world, right? And you don't need to have specific KPIs for each country. I like to group them. I like to, basically do clustering, but I always keep the US as a solo country because that country always have different kind of KPIs, and then we are just grouping tier 1, tier 2, or APEC or whatever for your game makes most sense, right? Then please optimize store listings more often. You saw how big impact it can be on the overall game's growth. So make sure you are not just spending and preparing video assets for marketing activities, but also for your store that you can support that area as well, because it goes hand to hand with marketing, obviously. And as I mentioned, test, ideal every single week. And once you will find tons of proven creatives that work, you can then diversify without any problem and ASAP to different kind of ad channels. And lastly, for the incorrect ones, please avoid not having a growth owner and scaling without any plan. That's actually the worst case scenario what you can do, right? Then another one is decision making based on not based on actual data. So basically, they are not confident, and you are not gathering real data, right? Doesn't make. I can tell you that we had so many examples where we reduced our CPIs, for example, by 70%. Like the numbers were incredible, but we weren't profitable still, right? If that makes sense. It wasn't a hyper-crucial game, but that's why you need to have those kind of advanced breakdowns where you can read data, not just rely on one specific KPI, for example, CPI or CTR, IPM, whatever. It's quite hard to decide if that makes sense or not. Then it's about lacking the ASO and creative potential, basically that you are stuck in one place and you are not improving your creative production. Then very critical one is to rely only on one traffic source. We already went through it, so yeah, it's always a very great idea to diversify as much as you can, especially if you have resources for creatives and also for marketing budgets. It doesn't make sense to push all in just one, certain network. And the last one, and my favorite one, let's call it switching, aka killing ad channels based on a very short-term testing. Because as you know, those kind of ad networks are completely different than socials. inventory is very large and they are bidding quite aggressively. So you need to went through multiple learning phases, right? And after you do that, then if you are eligible, you can have and unlock a RAS bidding feature, right? So then it's another campaign round of testing. Then you will need to prepare whitelists where you can target more narrow and more precisely, and only after that you can actually tell if that certain ad channel makes sense or not. If that makes sense. And yeah, that was it. Thank you so much, guys. I'm actually not sure if I have time, but I will try.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we have time again for like 2 questions. Any questions? Okay, if no, then I really encourage you to reach out to Daniel after his presentation or like during the break. He'll be happy to answer. And then let's move to the next presentation, where actually let's invite Rami guys